Hello students, welcome to the first lecture on the lecture series on simple interest. Okay, so in this lecture, what we will be doing is we'll be covering several concepts and types of problems that are being asked on various competitive exams. Okay, on simple interest topic. Okay, so let's continue with the lecture. So simple interest is a method of calculating interest. Okay, on a loan investment based on a financial amount, interest rate, and time duration. Okay, so basically the term simple interest, okay, has come from an economical background. Economics background. Because this kind of interest, that is simple interest, is being applied on various financial systems. Okay, so what is simple interest? Okay, so it is a method of calculating interest on a loan or investment based on principal amount. Okay, so it is a method to calculate interest, okay, to calculate the more amount. Okay, so let's say you went to the bank. Okay, you went to the bank and you got some money. Okay, so bank doesn't give money for free, right? So bank takes extra money after lending. So the amount that bank lends, so if bank lends you 100 rupees, okay, he will take back from you 100 rupees plus some positive amount or positive real number. Okay, so this kind of amount will be what bank will take from you. Okay, so the part X is called the interest. Okay, the extra money that the bank charges for lending you money. Okay, so actually you'll say that if I lend that money for 1 year and someone else lends that money for 2 years, is the X same always? Okay, let's say Anup lends money from the bank for 100 rupees, okay, for 1 year. Okay, and Anuj lends the same money for, that is 100 rupees money from the bank for 2 years. Will the interest rate same or will the interest be same? Is the X amount same? The answer is no. Okay, so the method of calculating X, okay, there are several methods to calculate X and different banks have different methods. Okay, so one kind of method is simple interest. So let's go forward. So definition, the formula for simple interest is SI is equal to P into R into T by 100. Okay, so P is what? P is the principal amount. Okay, so R is what? R is the rate of interest per annum. Okay, so you have to remember this term here. This is per annum, not per month. Okay, so T is the time period in years. Okay, here time period is in years, not months. Okay, not months. This is not months. Okay, this is also in per annum. So let's go forward. So the formula to calculate what principal amount is P is equal to 100 into A by 100 plus R into T. Okay, so interest rate is equal to R%, that is interest rate per annum, and the original sum, that is principal, can be calculated via this formula, and T is in years. Okay, R is interest rate. Okay, so formula, the annual payment required to clear a debt of A rupees in T years at an annual interest rate of R% can be determined by this formula, that is 100A by 100T plus RT into T minus 1 by 2. Okay, so the annual payment required to clear a debt of A rupees in T years at an annual interest rate of R% can be determined. Okay, so if a certain sum is actually invested in n types of investments such that each investment yields equal returns but with different interest rates, that is R1, R2, R3, Rn, and time period are T1, T2, T3, Tn respectively, then the ratio which the sum is invested can be determined via this 1 by 100 plus R1 RT, sorry, R1 T1 is to 1 by 100 plus R2 T2, okay, is to 1 by 100 plus R3 T3 is to 1 by 100 plus Rn Tn. Okay, so if certain sum of money grows n times its initial value, in t years at simple interest, the annual rate of interest can be calculated as r is equal to 100 into n minus 1% whole by t. Okay. So formula, if a certain sum of money grows n times its initial value, okay, whatever its initial value was, it grows to n times. So if its initial amount was 1, then it grows to n times, right? N times. So at a rate of r% per annum, simple interest over t years, then certain conclusions can be drawn and from the calculation we made. That is t is equal to n minus 1 whole by r into 100 years. Okay. So if certain sum of money grows n times its initial value in t years, okay, at a simple interest, the time t required for it to grow m times its original value can be determined as t dash is equal to, that is a new time, okay, required to grow it m times, will be m minus 1 by n minus 1 into t years. So the impact of changes in principal rate and rate of interest and time on simple interest can be calculated using the following formula, that is product of fixed parameter by 100, that is difference of into product of variable parameters. So for example, if r changes from r1 to r2, p t are fixed, then simple interest will be p into t whole by 100 into r1 minus r2. Similarly, if principal amount changes from p1 to p2 and rt are fixed, then it will be rt by 100 into p1 minus p2. So if rate changes from r1 to r2 and t changes from t1 to t2, but principal is fixed, then si is equal to p into 100 r1 t1 minus r2 t. Okay. So let's see the next formula, that is when a specific amount of money p is actually lent at simple interest, okay, it will accumulate to a1 over a period of t1, okay, and a2 over a period of t2 years. Okay, then the principal amount can be calculated via a1 t2 minus a2 t1 whole by t2 minus t1. Okay, so we can use this formula. So in order to calculate the interest rate, that will be equal to a1 minus a2 whole by a1 into t2 minus a2 into t1, where a1 is the interest that is being accumulated to a1 over a period of t1, and a2 is the interest that is being accumulated over a period of t2. Okay, this into 100%. So this will be the interest rate. So let's see if when a particular amount denoted as p is actually borrowed for a specific period of time t. So it will generate two direct sums, that is a1 through the annual interest rate of r1% and a2 through the annual interest rate of r2%. So P, that is the principal amount, can be calculated via A2 R1 minus A1 R2 whole by R1 minus R2. So T time period is equal to what? A1 minus A2 whole by A2 R1 minus A1 R2 into 100 years. So to find the combined interest rate for a total sum lent at simple interest when two different amounts P1 and P2 are borrowed at interest rate R1% and R2% per annum respectively, you can use the formula P1 R1 plus P2 R2 whole by P1 plus P2. This is equal to R, that is the interest rate. So types of problems. So finding simple interest. So there are actually 10 types of problems. Okay, one is finding simple interest. Second is finding principal amount, finding time, the third one, and the fourth one is finding rate of interest, and the fifth one is finding the total amount, okay, that is being need to paid. So let's see the sixth kind of problem, that is a time period problem. Then in 7 it is change in principal value, and in 8 it is the installment payment, okay, or the EMIs, okay. So the 9 is the compound interest versus simple interest. What is compound interest? What is simple interest? If you are given a financial situation, then calculate their compound interest and simple interest and find the difference between them, which one is larger or which one is smaller, or how they differ from each other, okay. And the 10th type of is on investments. So let's see the problem type number 1. So finding simple interest, okay. So given the principal rate of interest and time, calculate the simple interest. So find the simple interest on a principal of 5,000 at a rate of 8% per annum for 3 years, okay. Here this is the principal amount. Okay, 8% is the R percentage, the percentage of return per year per annum, okay, and the time period is given for 3 years. So given that principal amount is 5,000, rate of interest is equal to 8%, time period is 3 years, right? So calculating simple interest is equal to what? Simple interest is equal to PRT by 100. So 5,000 into 8 into 3 whole by 100 is equal to 1200 rupees is the simple interest. So the simple interest for this financial situation is 1200. So if we are given a principal amount of 5,000 at an interest rate of 8% per annum for 3 years, we have to pay a simple interest of 1200 at the end of 3 years. Okay. So let's see problem number 2. So finding principal value. So given the simple interest, rate of interest and time, find the principal amount. So the simple interest on a certain amount at a rate of 6% per annum for 4 years is 240. And find the principal amount. Okay, how to find the principal amount? So given to us is what is rate of interest, that is 6%, and the time is actually 4 years in this case. So simple interest will be PRT, right? So PRT is equal to 240. Okay, that is what given to us. PRT by 100 is equal to 240. So P is equal to PRT by 100. So SI P is equal to what? SI into 100 by RT. So this will be 240 into 100 whole by 6 into 4 is equal to 1000. So the principal amount is 1000 rupees. Okay. So if you are given this kind of financial situation where you need to calculate the simple interest, if you are given an amount at 6% per annum for 4 years and the simple interest is 240, then what was your principal amount? The principal amount was 1000 rupees. Okay. So let's see the third kind of problem, that is given the principal rate of interest and simple interest, determine the time period. Okay, so we'll be using that same formula, SI is equal to PRT by 100, right? So it tells us to calculate T. So T is equal to what? 100 into SI by PR, right? So the simple interest on a principal amount of 2000 at a rate of 5% per annum is 500. So find the time period in years. Okay. So T is equal to, we just have seen, SI is equal to what? PRT by 100, right? So this implies that T is equal to 100 into SI by PR. So this is equal to 100 into 500 whole by T into R. So the principal amount was 2000, right? Into, and the interest rate is 5%, right? So this is equal to what? So this will be 100, right? So let's cancel 3 zeros from the numerator and denominator. So it will be 10 by 2 is equal to 5. Okay. So principal amount is 2000 rupees, rate of interest is 5% and simple interest is 500. So calculating T is equal to what? We have calculated SI into 100 whole by PR. So 500 into 100 whole by 2000 into 5. So it will be T is equal to 5. So the time period is 5 years. So for this kind of financial situation, that is you have simple interest of 500 per annum and the principal amount is 2000, okay, at a rate of 5% per annum, then what you have is you have T years time period. Okay, that is 5 years time period. So let's see the fourth kind of problem, that is finding rate of interest, right? So given the principal, simple interest and time, calculate the rate of interest. So again we will use the same formula, SI is equal to PRT by 100, right? So this implies that we want to calculate R, right? So R is equal to what? SI into 100 by PT. Okay, so you have the principal amount, you have the time period, you have the simple interest. So you can then calculate the rate of interest. So the simple interest on a principal amount of 2500 for 2 years is 600. So SI is equal to PRT by 100. So this implies that SI is given as 600 and P is given as 2500 into T is given as 2 and R is unknown here. So by 100, right? So cancelling these 2 zeros. So what we are left with is R is equal to 600 by 50. So this will be equal to what? 12, right? So 12% per annum is the correct answer here. So given us the principal amount, that is 2500, time period that is 2 years and simple interest that is 600. So R is equal to what? SI into 100 whole by P into T. So R is equal to 600 into 100 whole by 2500 into 2. So R will be what? 12. So the rate of interest per annum will be 12%, right? So let's see the fifth kind of problem, that is calculate the total amount. that is principal amount plus simple interest. So after given a time period. So a principal amount of 8,000 is actually invested at a rate of 4%, right, per annum. So calculate the total amount after 5 years. So given principal amount is 8,000, rate of interest is equal to 4%, and time period in T is equal to 5 years. Okay. So calculate the total amount. So total amount will be what? Principal amount plus simple interest, right? So principal amount is P and simple interest will be PRT by 100. So total amount will be 8,000 plus 8,000 into 4 into 5 whole by 100. Okay. So total amount will be what? 8,000 plus 1,600 whole is equal to total amount will be 9,600. So the total amount after 5 years will be what? This will be the cumulative amount or final amount. That is 9,600. That is the principal amount plus the simple interest part. Okay. So given the financial situation of like this, they like that principal amount is 8,000 and rate of interest is 4%, then calculate the total amount after 5 years. Okay. So you use this formula, that is total amount is equal to P plus PRT by 100, because principal amount plus simple interest. Okay. So we have calculated those and we have put it in the formula, and what we are left with is 9,600. So the answer will be the total amount after 5 years is 9,600. So time period. So find the time taken to accumulate certain amount. Okay. That is principal plus interest. So simple interest on a certain amount is 3,000 rupees at a rate of 10% per annum. If the principal amount is 6,000, find the time taken. So you all know that simple interest is equal to what? PRT by 100, right? So given us that, it asks us to find the time taken. So we want to find out T. So given that simple interest is equal to what? 3,000 is equal to, at a rate of 10% per annum, 10% into principal amount is 6,000. Okay, and R is unknown here. T is unknown here, and by 100, right? So cancelling 2 zeros from the numerator and denominator. So this implies that T is equal to 3,000 into 3,000 by 10 into 60. Okay, cancelling 0, and so it will be 50. So it will be 5. So 5 years. So principal amount was 6,000, rate of interest is equal to 10%, and simple interest was 3,000. So calculating time is equal to SI into 100 by P into R. So 3,000 into 100 whole by 6,000 into 10 is equal to T is equal to 5 years. So the time taken is actually 5 years in this case. So change in principal. So determine the new principal amount after a certain amount of interest is added. So if the simple interest on a certain sum of money increases by 200, then when the rate of interest is actually increased by 2% and the time is kept the same, so find the initial principal amount. So given that change in simple interest, that is delta SI, is equal to 200. So change in rate of interest will be 2%, right? So calculating the initial principal, that is change in simple interest, will be P into del RT into T whole by 100, because only the interest rate change. Okay, principal amount and time period remains the same. So 200 into P into 2 into T by 100. So since T is kept the same, we can ignore it for this calculation. So solve for P. So P is equal to 200 into 100 by 2 is equal to 10,000. So the initial principal amount is 10,000. So let's see the 8th kind of problem, that is installment problem. So calculate the equal annual installment required to clear a debt over a given period of time. Okay, these kind of questions very frequently come to the exam. So let's see an example. So a debt of 5,000 is to be cleared in 5 equal annual installments. Okay, so if the rate of interest is 6% per annum, find the amount of each installment. Okay, so given that principal amount is equal to P is equal to 5,000 and rate of interest R is equal to 6% and time in years is equal to 5 years. So total amount is equal to what? Principal plus simple interest. So P plus PRT by 100. So total amount will be 5,000 plus 5,000 into 6 into 5 by 100, right? So cancelling out, what we are left with is 1,500 as simple interest. So it will be 6,500. So amount of each installment will be 6,500 by 5 is equal to 1,300. So the amount of each installment will be 1,300. So let's see the difference between compound interest and simple interest. Okay, so how they are different fundamentally. So comparing interest earned under simple interest with compound interest for the same principal and rate. Okay, so if a certain sum of money becomes 13,310 in 2 years at a simple rate of 8% per annum, okay, find the amount it will become at the same rate for the same period of under compound interest. So given that principal P is equal to unknown and rate of interest R is equal to 8%, T is equal to 2 years and simple interest is equal to 13,310. So calculate the principal using simple interest formula. So SI is equal to PRT by 100. So 13,310 is equal to P into 8 into 2 whole by 100, right? So P is equal to 13,310 into 100 whole by 16. So it is 83,187.7. So the principal amount is 83,187.5. So step 4, calculate the amount under compound interest. So amount is equal to P into 1 plus R by 100 whole power T. So amount will be what? 83,187.5 into 1 plus 8 by 100 whole power 2. So the amount will be 90,305.82. So the amount under compound interest is actually approximately 90,305.8. Okay, so let's see the 10th kind of problem, that is on investments. So solve the problems related to investments, returns and interest rates for different time periods. So let's say Mr. X invested 10,000 rupees in scheme A at a simple interest of 7% per annum for 3 years. He also invested 8,000 in scheme B at an interest rate of 6% per annum. Okay, for 4 years. Then find the total amount he received after the given period of time. So calculate the simple interest for scheme A, right? So principal P1 is equal to 10,000, rate of interest R1 is equal to 7%, and time T1 is equal to 3 years. So as first simple interest will be P1 R1 T1 whole by 100. So second will be, and we can, if we further compute, then it will be 10,000 into 7 into 3 whole by 100 is equal to 2100. Okay. So calculating the simple interest for scheme B, principal amount P2 8,000, simple rate of interest is equal to 6%, time is equal to 4%. So 8,000 into 6 into 4 by 100 is the simple interest, right? That is equal to nothing but 1920. So calculate the amount received is equal to total amount is equal to principal plus simple interest. So total amount is equal to 10,000 plus 2,100 and 8,000 plus 1,920. So the total amount became 22,040. So the total amount received after the given period of time is 22,040. So let's review what we have learned in this lecture. So we learned what simple interest was. It was a method of calculating interest on a loan or investment based on the principal amount. So interest rate and time duration. So the formula of simple interest was this: SI is equal to PRT by 100, and we used this extensively throughout the chapter. So the formula to calculate what principal amount, when rate of interest and time period is given, along with amount, certain amount is what P is equal to 100A by 100 plus RT. So the annual payment required to clear the debt of A in T years at an annual interest rate of R% can be determined by what? This formula, that is 100A plus 100T plus RT into T minus 1 by 2. So if certain sum of money grows to n times its initial value in T years at simple interest rate, then the annual interest will be R is equal to 100 into n minus 1 whole by T percentage. Okay. If the sum of money grows to n times its initial value at R% per annum simple interest over T years, then it will be T is equal to n minus 1 whole by R into 100 years. So if a certain sum of money grows n times its initial value in T years at a simple interest, then the time T dash required for it to grow m times its original value can be determined via T dash is equal to m minus 1 whole by n minus 1 into T years. Okay. So the impact of changes in principal P, rate of interest R and time period T on simple interest can be calculated by this. That is the product of fixed parameter into 100 into difference of product of variable parameters. So if interest rates change and other are constant, then it will be SI is equal to PT by 100 into R1 minus R2. If principal amount changes and rate of interest and time becomes same, then it will be RT by 100 into P1 minus P2. So also if the rate changes from R1 to R2 and time T changes from T1 to T2, but the principal is fixed, then the change is equal to SI is equal to P by 100 into R1 T1 minus R2 T2. Okay. So P is equal to A1 T2 minus A2 T1 whole by T2 minus T1. So R is equal to A1 minus A2 and whole by A1 T2 minus A2 T1 into 100%. Okay. So we also learned this formula. Okay. So we learned all the types of problem, that was finding simple interest, finding principal amount, finding time period, finding rate of interest, finding total amount, finding time period, changing the principal amount, and how it impacts the SI, that is the simple interest, and installment payments. Okay, compound interest versus simple interest. What was compound interest? What was simple interest? How their value actually differs from each other. And we also learned the problems on investments. Okay, so since we have learned all the theory and types of problems, what we will be doing is we will be covering some exercise problems in the upcoming lecture. Then what we will be doing is we will be covering some previous year questions so that you could get enough confidence so that you could cover this topic. Okay, so this topic is not very much trickier. This is mostly straightforward calculation based topic. So please try to review all the theory and the questions that we practice in the class. Okay, and thank you.